Okay, after this conversation on Together, which is really serving the needs of native Gen AI companies and struggling with capacity, let's shift a little bit and introduce Rackspace, Uniphore, their partnership, and what's going on in the world of enterprise AI. So maybe, Gajen, we'll start with you. A little bit of introduction of yourself, and then how you would explain Rackspace to this audience.
Yeah, it's loud. I'm Gajen Kandiah. I'm CEO of Rackspace. Been with Rackspace about 6 months now. Came to Rackspace from Hitachi, where I was the chief AI officer there. So I come from industrial, and before industrial, I was at Cognizant for 17 years. So I was there as one of the early founding members of that team. A little bit about Rackspace. I came to Rackspace because as I looked at it from the outside, I came to realize that it was a company that was not well positioned or messaged right in the market, just given all of the capability that Rackspace has. And so, as I met with my customers, whether I was at Hitachi or since I've come to Rackspace, what I realized is, we provide managed services, infrastructure managed services to our customers. That was the core business of the company. But as I met with customers, what I'm realizing and what I started to realize quickly is customers are making this pivot from pilot to production. And as they're making that pivot, they're beginning to realize that, or they've realized that public cloud and software alone doesn't enable that journey, that they need dedicated, secure, private infrastructure. And that's sort of where we sit, because today we provide private cloud infrastructure to regulated and sovereign industries like healthcare, financial services, energy, and select governments. And as customers are looking to move on to AI, we see that as an opportunity to expand into providing AI infrastructure and data and applications on top of that to solve sort of the entire stack. So that's.
And we'll go into some customer case studies, but Umesh, tell us about Uniphore. Don't tell me, I know.
Uniphore is a sovereign and open data and AI company that serves large enterprises. We serve about 2,500 companies, 200 of which are Fortune 500 firms. And we let these large enterprises use our infrastructure software stack to do the following things. First, to bring their disparate, fragmented data sources that may live in those enterprise situations and use AI agents to quickly prepare them for serving AI needs. Then we let these enterprises fine-tune industry-specific small language models using our platform, and ultimately then build agents and agentic workflows to drive automation. All this in a sovereign and open stack, which means we are not attached to a single hyperscaler. Our platform can run on any public, private cloud or on-prem. And our platform's open, which means it works equally well with all the LLMs, with all the GPUs and CPUs, and with all other guardrail and different frameworks.
So explain sovereign.
Sovereign, look, this word has become more popular in the last year or so as AI has rolled out in the enterprise, and the operating word is enterprise. Sovereign really means that you own full control on the entire stack, infra to software, that's running agents, including LLMs and data.
As opposed to giving it to a hyperscaler to run on their infrastructure.
That's exactly why it's become important. That, it started with companies in the US, Fortune 100 companies, realizing that if every enterprise is going to have access to the same LLMs, if you and I can use Claude or OpenAI at the same way that anyone else can use, what's going to differentiate company A from B? It's how you use your data and how you fine-tune that model is the real differentiation, which means who owns that data, who gets to touch it, who gets to use it, is now a very, very important topic for the CEOs and CIOs, and that's how sovereignty began. But it's taken a whole new dimension because of the geopolitics of today. The minute I travel to our customers outside of US, Europe, Asia, it's now a very open dialogue that my customers ask me, Uniphore is a Silicon Valley headquartered company. What if President Trump decides that we in Europe or we in Asia can't use you as a way of geopolitical negotiation? And so therefore, having the ability to host a Uniphore stack on-prem in their country, could be on-prem or it could be a private cloud in their country, to have full control on their data, on their models, and the ability to swap model A from model B without having an impact on performance or cost. Those are important considerations for enterprise, may not be for a AI lab or a hyperscaler, but for enterprise, that's truly important.
So Gajen, if you want to get to this partnership and the announcement today, which is super exciting, how did you think of it? What was sort of the plan behind it? What do you hope to accomplish with this partnership?
So if you think about what we do today, right?
Yeah.
We provide the compute environment.
Yeah.
We provide the private cloud instance. And then on top of that, we provide a control plane, like VCF9 from VMware potentially, right? And then we operate and manage in healthcare, for instance, Epic environments. So the EHR sits on our private cloud.
So applications.
So the applications sit
which
with
have
us.
a lot of privacy.
So think of these as
governance.
mission critical, safety critical apps that sit with us. When these customers begin to move into AI, they now need the next layer, right? So the next layer then is what Uniphore brings to us, which is the data, the knowledge, the specialized language models. So whether I'm doing clinical work or post-op work or emergency room work, each of those has its own model. So how do I build that model? And then how do I build the agents on top of that?
It's called small language.
So small language models, right? So bringing that whole stack in a very opinionated way to our customers is where we see the opportunity, and that's why we came together.
And have you had a chance to popularize it with your customer base, with your customers, got some feedback on it? Give us a little flavor of how they...
Wouldn't have done it without that, as much as I like Umesh.
Of course, yeah.
But no, so, our customers, by and large, and I'll stay in the regulated and in healthcare just to kind of keep it tight, they have thousands of use cases ready to go.
Yeah.
They just don't have the talent to do it. They don't have the wherewithal to decide on which platform do I use, what architecture
Not
should
get
I
locked
pick,
in. Yeah.
what's the orchestration layer, what's the inference layer. They don't have any of that. So when we talk to them and say, what if I took all of that off the table? We will manage all of that as Rackspace because we've been doing it for you for 25 years. You just focus on the outcomes. And if you need help, I'll also deliver forward deployed engineers that partner with Uniphore to deploy it for you. And that resonated extremely well across healthcare, financial services, and energy. And so that's why we decided.
So Umesh, if you've been selling enterprise AI systems now for a long time, and the 2 or 3 years ago when we were sitting in a board meeting, you decided to raise a significant amount of cash to build your own LLM. Remember that 3 years ago? And it would cost $100 million minimum to build an LLM. Of course, it costs billions or hundreds of billions if you believe OpenAI. But transition from that into building this stack. From that time to now, what have you seen change in the customer?
If we all agree that the pace of change of AI is unprecedented, then we're in 3 or 4 generations different from the time Sumant is mentioning. I think about my visits to the World Economic Forum Davos. 2 years ago, the conversations I was having with CEOs there was about which LLM, Umesh, do you recommend? Is it OpenAI? Is it Anthropic? Or the Chinese models were beginning to dominate the conversation. Last year, it was all about compute and GPUs and NVIDIA, and some of NVIDIA's newer competitors were beginning to dominate. And this year, when in late January, February, we were all in Davos, the conversation was no longer about LLM or GPU, it was about business outcomes. Umesh, tell us the stories that other customers are telling you. How have you seen it work in a bank like JP Morgan? How have you seen it work in a telecom like AT&T? How have you seen it in a healthcare like United Health? And that was a very clear signal to me that the world is moving from the picks and shovels to where the value will be derived. And look, we can all set up huge amounts of infrastructure and hyperscaler and all of that. But unless there's deep adoption in the enterprise, that infrastructure isn't likely to get the full ROI. And what people don't realize about this partnership is Rackspace has an install base of 60,000 customers, of which 20,000 are lower enterprise and mid-market. someone like a Metro Bank in UK, someone like a Seattle Children's Hospital, or Valley Medical, etc., where a contract that Rackspace might have is a 10-year, $300 million private cloud hosting contract. Why did the customer pick Rackspace? Because of security, because of governance, over a hyperscaler. And now Rackspace is going to the same hospital, to the same bank, and saying, I'm coming to you with fine-tuned SLMs and agents, which I know are important to you. Here's good news. It's coming from the same secure, governed private cloud that you've always trusted. And by the way, here's the second better news, that we are so confident, we know your business, we are ready to deliver infra to agents on an outcome as a service, in some form of gain share. It's business models like these, which in the coming times are going to dominate the enterprise adoption.
Let's click on that a little bit. Gajen, from your point of view, how do you think about pricing now? And I want to also ask Umesh to opine on what happens to old pricing models like the SaaS companies, the Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNows, and what are you hearing in the market?
So two different things. Starting with the second part of it is, as you make the pivot from human interface to these SaaS platforms to machine interfaces, agentic interfaces, that drives the licensing model completely out of whack. So they run into their own issues, which I have chosen not to get involved in, right? But there is a real impact to them, and I think as agents become more prevalent, that becomes a meaningful challenge that the SaaS companies need to deal with. They're not going to go away, but I think that there's a real issue that they have to handle. But when I think about what we're bringing to the table collectively, I think of it as three different vectors of opportunity, right? One is efficiency, automation, sort of more functional AI. Then there is the more ERP specific, which is what we just touched on, but that's more around automation of the
cost savings.
Cost savings. But the real opportunity I see is where we are focused, which is the actual business operation, right? Which is a significantly bigger chunk of dollars that customers are spending, but haven't quite figured out how to connect.
So give us some examples of those. What would those be? Like take Seattle Children.
Yeah. So the first, well, one of the use cases is a end-to-end surgical use case. So how do I navigate a member or a patient from pre-surgery all the way through the process of surgery and post-surgery? And they want to build a language model, a small language model.
So very specialized.
Very specialized, 7-8 billion parameter model that then enables and supports the clinicians that are predominantly focused there. The other one is in the ER room. Like, how do I not only manage the emergency, but post that emergency, how do I ensure that they don't come back, right?
So do they know what they're trying to automate? Do they?
They have 1,000 use cases
right
now.
Do they prioritize them? Do they have?
Well, that's where we come in, right? Sort of, you look at the models, what can we build quickly? Like we t-shirt size the models to say, simple, medium, high complexity, how quickly can we get it deployed?
And so that's your forward engineering.
So that's the forward engineering. And when we do it in a deployment model, it's a pod-based deployment model of, X number of people for 4 weeks on the average and costs about $1.5 million. And you're not selling T&M, you're now selling the outcome. Right? And so you're writing a statement of outcomes more so than a statement of work.
Right.
And the statement of outcomes lists the entire track, the roadmap of projects that they need to get, or use cases they need to deploy.
And how do you price an outcome? Like, what's the mechanism?
I price it on I just go with $1.5 million, 3 to 4, or 6. And they're basically 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
I understand. So it's time driven.
All they care about is the outcome right now. Eventually, it'll come down to, let me see what's inside that pod. Right? But because of the way the pod is set up, because it's an FTE pod, it's not a human pod, right? So I may have half a solutions architect and 3 developers, and like however I may set the pod up. And it's going to evolve depending on the type of the t-shirt that we're deploying, right? So that's why I'm able to deliver that, and customers are not challenging that model yet. I think it'll happen, but I don't think it's going to happen in the short term.
So Umesh, for the audience's sake, define how you think of your customers' sophistication and understanding what they need.
So obviously, there's no one size fits all. I think about 3 big pathways to our customers. First, broadly speaking, Fortune 100, Walmart, JP Morgan, AT&T, Verizon. these are organizations who have the resources to have the type of talent that Uniphore has in-house. May not be as sophisticated as an engineering or an R&D company, but they have sophisticated PhDs and data scientists within their own firms who are trying to build a version of what Rackspace and Uniphore now together represent, which is a private cloud with the toolkit to fine-tune models and build agents in-house. This is a very technologically advanced customer, but from a business adoption needs a lot of help. And so to that customer, when Uniphore pitches the Business AI Cloud, our platform, which was designed to be open, they find elements of our platform which are further ahead or more advanced than what they're doing in-house. And acceleration or speed becomes important to them. And saying, instead of us spending another 3 years trying to build what Uniphore has, and meanwhile Uniphore advances, can I license some of these components from Uniphore as part of my stack? But then they still need help with change management, transformation. How do you diffuse AI in their organizations? And that's where firms like our partners at KPMG come into play. The second customer is the Fortune 100 through Global 1000, large enterprise, but does not have the wherewithal. An example is Farmers Insurance. And there, Uniphore goes wall to wall. We are the only data and AI stack that they have, whether it's claims or underwriting or marketing or sales use cases for agentic and models, bringing their data together, fine-tuning models, building agents, all on the Uniphore platform. But we now rely on partners like Rackspace who have the FDE and the infrastructure wherewithal to deliver. Now, the third category is this almost written off go-to-market motion of global system integrators. And the easy thing to say is, oh, these consulting firms and GSIs have no role to play and their business model is under threat and they won't exist. And by the way, Wall Street is voting with their money right now and all of their stocks are crashing. People forget those GSIs represent two things. And these are companies like Accenture or Cognizant or Wipro, all of which are Uniphore partners today. Number one, they have humongous distribution. Yeah. Every big or small enterprise in the world are their customers, and they deeply understand their processes. And number two, they have those domain expertise. What does a life sciences customer need to drive efficiency? Because these companies are the back office to those life sciences customers anyways, or a bank or insurance. And Uniphore's partnership with that GSI isn't so much to resell our licenses, but it's for the GSI to consume the Uniphore platform, develop industry-specific small language models and agents, and going and selling those as, again, like Rackspace, as an outcome as a service to their clients. So a consulting firm to a very technically savvy customer, Fortune 100, an infra to agent provider with FDE to Fortune 100 to 1000, and then global system integrators to their captive customer base. This is what enterprise AI adoption right now.
So fast forward 36 months. You've been CEO now for 3.5 years of Rackspace. What would be success?
Umesh and I have had an ongoing debate about this. I think if the enterprise market fully embraces AI, which I think it will, I see us as the backbone of enterprise AI by that point. I mean, I think we're building up to that, but everything, we would provide everything from the compute to the inference to the orchestration, all the way up through the stack to the agents, and we would host and run it, and we would have a very unique and somewhat curated set of partners, because this is an ecosystem game. I don't think you do this by yourself. Like Uniphore, that we will stitch together and provide that outcome. And the whole market will pivot to this outcome model. I don't think even service providers have the option to continue with TI.
Given that I'm a shareholder of Uniphore, I'm actually much more interested in how he answers that question.
Well, first, I want to take a crack at answering the Rackspace question and then Uniphore, because I'm heavily opinionated about this. And unfortunately, now that we've entered into a partnership, I can't purchase Rackspace stock. If I could, I would. Because I think in 36 months, you can't. In 36 months, Rackspace represents right now a club of one. Maybe there's a few more, but this is what the enterprise AI secure, governed, private cloud would look like. And I think that their revenue, which could grow, in my opinion, at triple digits from here on, could be a third of this outcome as a service, where they're doing everything for the client, delivering the outcome. A third selling components of either the cloud or the software, et cetera. And a third where they are like a neo cloud and leasing out GPUs, but to enterprise clients. And I think that's a unique opportunity. For Uniphore, look, we've seen in every major tech revolution, whether it was the internet or mobile or cloud, it creates opportunities for new S&P 500 caliber platforms. And in internet, it was Salesforce initially, and then ServiceNow and Workday followed. We've seen similar in every trend. AI is likely to throw out a few of those. And previous panel of yours, Vipul mentioned that there's a category of AI infrastructure providers, but infrastructure software for enterprise. That's a category that, again, when we go out to a customer, we compete with 4 firms constantly. 3 of them are hyperscalers, which represent a closed ecosystem. You're either in the Amazon ecosystem or Google or Microsoft, which, the largest enterprises don't like to be closed right now. They like sovereign. And then there comes a club of 2, which is Uniphore and Palantir. And Uniphore and Palantir have 2 very different philosophies. Palantir is a very FDE-led black box model. Uniphore is a self-serve platform available in the hands of the customer. So the opportunity to create a 100 billion company in the next 3 to 5 years, I think is in front of us, is how we execute now.
We have a few minutes, like we do in most panels. I'll like to open it up if anyone has any questions, maybe 2 or 3 questions for Umesh and for Gajen. Anybody? Done a great job. No one has questions.
Enterprise is not fun yet.
So you're all buying your stock right now.
Yeah, so I think a couple of key takeaways, and then I'll ask you to leave us with final thoughts, at least for me, are that if you look at the market that Together is serving of native Gen AI companies, like the Cursors and the Decagons, their needs are very different from the enterprise market. There was a very well-known fuck-up done by one of the hyperscalers in one of the largest financial institutions. They deployed an AI system for their HR. And within minutes, every employee had access to every other employee's compensation data. It just had no control. And those are the kind of problems enterprises have, and especially if you go down the path and if you're thinking about medical or any place where you have even more regulation, that needs help and support. I think that's my major takeaway, and that's what you guys are focused on delivering. We're excited for the partnership. Umesh, any last thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, I'll just close by one anecdote that last week, Gajen and I Uniphore is backed by both NVIDIA and AMD, and we're very proud of both those partnerships. Gajen and I were in one of those meetings with one of our partners. And it was said that, look, we don't have appetite for one more neo cloud, but we have tremendous demand for customers like AT&T who want to use new GPUs or CPUs and they can't find it with a hyperscaler. A customer like AT&T will not go to a neo cloud. They don't find the security, But in this partnership is an opportunity for a secure, governed, enterprise-focused private cloud, which takes all the strengths of Rackspace's legacy of private infrastructure with Uniphore's infrastructure software now bringing models and agents together in a sovereign manner. And that now opens up this whole universe of the upper enterprise who doesn't want to be locked into a hyperscaler, wants the security, and has now a full stack available.
Great. Gajen, anything else?
He sells me better than I do,
I was thinking that. You should put him on your board or something. But look, I want to take the opportunity. Thank you both for joining us here. It's an effort to come down, but we appreciate it. I think the audience appreciates it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.